Today we're talking about off-road camping trailers. A buddy of mine bought what he thought was a tough off-road trailer. Big tires, beefy frame, the whole adventure look. But only after a few rough trails, the suspension sagged, the underbody scraped, and the trailer spent more time in the shop than on the trip. Because here's the thing, most off-road trailers are built to look rugged, not survive the real world. Which is why today, I'm breaking down the few off-road camping trailers that are actually worth your time, money, and adventures. Let's go! I've towed a lot of lightweight teardrops through mud and sand, and most of them start showing weak points after just a few rough weekends, mainly in how the suspension handles uneven load and how the underbody takes repeated hits. The tiny camper Kong actually addresses both without adding much weight. It runs either Timbren or rugged hitch axle-less suspension, which flexes independently instead of transferring shock through a solid axle. That's what keeps it from sagging on one side when you're crossing ruts or off-camber sections. The 31-inch mud terrain tires give you real ground clearance, and the marine-grade composite construction means no wood to rot out after water exposure. Inside, you get a basic sleeping platform, hardwood floors, and a rear galley shelf for prep work. Minimal, but enough for weekend trips if you're not cooking full meals. The honest limitation is space. If you're over 6 feet or traveling with lots of gear, you'll feel cramped fast. But for solo or couple trips where weight and durability matter more than comfort, it holds up better than most fiberglass alternatives in this weight class. One thing I've noticed with ultralight teardrops is they either tow great but fall apart structurally, or they're built solid but too heavy for smaller vehicles. The red Gecko TDX sits under 1,000 pounds and actually stays together on rough trails because of how the chassis and suspension work together. It uses a Berg rubber torsion axle, which absorbs jarring hits without metal-on-metal flex that causes frame cracks over time. The plywood construction with Raptor coating isn't what you'd expect for durability, but it holds up better than fiberglass in repeated moisture exposure, and the low weight means less stress on the tow vehicle through tight switchbacks or steep descents. Inside, the full-width galley tailgate gives you actual counter space for meal prep. The mattress is high-density foam that doesn't compress after a few nights, and storage drawers stay accessible without unloading everything. The limitation is capacity. This works for 2 people with minimal gear, but families or longer trips require serious packing discipline. For small SUV owners who need something that won't beat up the vehicle, this is one of the few that makes sense. Most trailers I've seen that claim to be indestructible still use wood framing or fiberglass shells that eventually crack, delaminate, or rot out after enough exposure to weather and trail abuse. The Ecno Evil Unit 1 skips all of that. It's a frameless HDPE body on an aluminum tube chassis. This handles any and all impacts like a champ. The Timbren axle-less suspension gives you 14 inches of ground clearance, which is enough to clear most rock obstacles without scraping. And at 780 pounds dry weight, it doesn't stress the tow vehicle or bounce around on washboard. Inside, you get a trifold mattress, basic shelving, and a rear hatch with external storage for your camp stove and water jugs. It's designed to sleep in, not live in. There's no galley, no fridge, no bathroom, so you're cooking outside and packing everything separately. The trade-off is livability. If you need more than a weatherproof place to sleep after a long day on the trail, this won't cut it. But for durability and simplicity, it's hard to beat at this price point. A lot of off-road trailers give you either serious trail capability or actual living space, but rarely both in the same package. The Scamp X manages to deliver a full interior, real kitchen with stove and fridge, convertible dinette, even a shower and toilet option, while still handling rough terrain better than most fiberglass trailers in this weight class. It sits on Timbren heavy-duty suspension with 18 inches of ground clearance and mud tires, so it clears obstacles without bottoming out, and the articulating hitch keeps it tracking predictably on uneven ground instead of pushing the tow vehicle around. At just under 2,000 pounds dry, it's light enough for mid-sized trucks, but heavy enough to stay planted in crosswinds or washboard sections. The U-shaped dinette converts to extra sleeping space, and the kitchen layout gives you enough counter room to actually prep meals without everything sliding off. The limitation is weight. You're looking at close to 2,000 pounds before adding gear, so smaller SUVs are out. But if you need a trailer that works for longer trips without sacrificing off-road access, this bridges that gap. The biggest complaint I hear about RTT-based setups is how long they take to deploy and pack down every single time you move camp. It gets old fast on multi-day trips. The BunduTrail fixes that with a powered electric lift that gets the whole system up in under 5 minutes, which actually makes a difference when you're setting up after dark or trying to break camp early. It runs either heavy-duty springs or air ride suspension depending on your weight needs, and the articulating coupler keeps it from binding up on uneven terrain or steep approaches. The slide-out kitchen gives you a dual-zone fridge, sink with hot water, and full galley storage that stays organized even on rough roads. And the rooftop tent sleeps too comfortably with decent ventilation. At around 1,765 pounds dry, it's stable behind mid-sized trucks without swaying. The limitation is complexity. Electric lifts and motors mean more potential failure points than a basic manual setup, and you're relying on battery power for the main features. For fast-moving overland trips where setup time matters, it's hard to beat, but simpler trailers win on long-term reliability. I've used a lot of teardrops on narrow Forest Service roads and tight switchbacks, and most of them either track wide or feel unstable when you're trying to back into a tight campsite. The Venture Overland XTR keeps things compact at around 10 to 12 feet, and the independent torsion axles let each wheel respond separately instead of transferring every bump through a solid beam. That's what keeps it from hopping or skipping on uneven surfaces. The steel tube frame with bedliner coating and diamond plate up front takes direct hits better than exposed aluminum, and at 1,300 to 1,700 pounds, it stays light enough to tow comfortably without feeling sketchy in crosswinds. Inside, the queen mattress folds into a couch, birch cabinetry gives you organized storage, and the slide-out fridge drawer keeps things accessible without digging through bins. The optional pop top adds headroom if you need to sit up or move around. The limitation is the galley. It's tight for actual cooking, so you're doing most meal prep outside. But for couples who need something maneuverable on technical trails without sacrificing sleeping comfort, this handles that balance well. One of the most common problems I've seen with heavier teardrops is how they start to sway or feel unstable on highways, especially in crosswinds or when passing semis. The Mammoth HV stays planted at 1,650 pounds dry because of how the weight is distributed and how the Timbren 3500 HD independent suspension absorbs lateral movement without transferring it back to the tow vehicle. The 30-inch BF-GK02 tires give you decent clearance for ruts and rocks, and the aluminum construction means there's nothing to rot or delaminate after repeated exposure to rain and mud. The rear galley has a 2-burner stove, sink, and electric fridge with on-demand hot water, which is more functional than most outdoor kitchens in this class, and the 77 by 76-inch queen bed sleeps too comfortably without feeling cramped. Inside headroom is only 4 feet 2 inches, so you're not sitting upright or moving around much. It's strictly for sleeping and gear storage. For couples who prioritize towing stability and all aluminum durability over interior space, this handles long highway hauls and rough trails without the maintenance headaches of wood-framed alternatives. Now, before we get to my final 2 absolute favorite off-roaders on this list, if you're into no BS breakdowns like this, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Not ready for that? Totally fine. Just drop a like instead, because that's what helps me know this kind of content is actually useful. Most expandable campers I've seen either pop up fast but feel flimsy off-road, or they're built solid but take forever to deploy. The Berg CX3 splits that difference with an electric pop-up roof that goes up in minutes and a galvanized ladder chassis with solid beam axle that actually holds together on rutted tracks. The leaf spring suspension is old school, so it's harsher on washboard than coil setups, but it doesn't sag under load and handles articulation without twisting the frame. At around 1 to 2 tons dry, it's heavier than most teardrops, but still manageable for mid-sized trucks, and the 240 kilogram ball weight keeps it stable at highway speeds. Inside, you get a full bathroom with toilet and shower, a slide-out kitchen with fridge and stove, and a queen island bed with decent mattress support. The fresh water tank holds 150 to 200 liters, so you're not rationing on longer trips. The trade-off is price. This sits closer to luxury overland gear than budget off-road camping, and importing from South Africa adds cost and complexity for US buyers. But for couples who want serious amenities without towing a full RV, it delivers. When you're towing a full-size family camper over corrugated dirt roads or through deep ruts, most trailers either start bouncing violently or transfer all that shock straight into the tow vehicle. The MDC XT17 HRT runs Cruisemaster X-Track independent coil suspension with dual shocks per side, which means each wheel absorbs hits independently without jarring the entire frame. That's what prevents the kind of suspension sag and underbody scraping that sidelines cheaper rigs. At around 6,000 pounds dry, it's heavy, but the Trail Assure stability control keeps it from fishtailing on loose surfaces or steep descents. Inside, you get a queen innerspring bed, convertible dinette that sleeps extra people, full kitchen with fridge and microwave, and an ensuite bathroom. Actual family livability, not just a place to crash. The 600 amp-hour lithium battery and 875 watts of solar handle extended off-grid stays without rationing power. The limitation is weight. You need a full-size truck to tow this safely, and the price sits well above entry-level overland gear. But for families who need serious off-road capability without sacrificing comfort, this handles both.